Hey guys, welcome back to another cult movie review with me, Bo, here on the Film Scene Investigation channel. Hope everyone out there is doing good. Thanks for checking out the video. In today's review, I'm going to be checking out the 1993 crime thriller, The Young Americans. Before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, The Young Americans from October 1993 was written and directed by the British filmmaker Danny Cannon, marking his directorial debut. The film starred actor Harvey Keitel, with Thandie Newton and Viggo Mortensen supporting. With its solid acting cast and the fact that I'd already heard the movie's soundtrack, I was intrigued to see what Danny Cannon could deliver. So the film followed the Los Angeles DEA detective John Harris, who was played by Harvey Keitel, as he travelled to London to help support the Metropolitan Police with their ongoing investigations. The crime numbers were growing. No arrests were being made as the Gangland activity in London continued to grow. Now, it was believed that Harris was only there to help assist his fellow detectives, but in actuality, he'd been sent by the DEA to track down a notorious American gangster, Carl Fraser, who was played by Viggo Mortensen. Fraser was this high-profile American gangster who had a history with Harris and thought by fleeing to London he'd never see him again. We then saw two English detectives, Brian Carver and Lewis Carnegie, who took Harris under their wing and gave him the lowdown on the latest murders that were going on. Harris already knew that Fraser had been operating in that area and knew deep down that he was involved with the recent murders. As the investigation continued, we discovered that the English detectives Carver and Carnegie were actually on the take, receiving bribes from Fraser and his men. The men were corrupt as hell, taking bribes and openly turning a blind eye to the illegal activities Fraser was involved with. It was a ring of corruption that saw the authorities protecting the criminals for a fee. And of course, while this was indeed a work of fiction, the whole bribery stuff really rings true to us in reality. From small scale to large scale, corruption is sadly everywhere in today's society. From politics to the pharmaceutical companies, greed runs deep in nearly all facets of society. Shockingly, the two corrupt detectives would end up getting killed in a surprise car bomb attack outside of Fraser's nightclub. The officers had just been sitting there when suddenly this petrol bomb came flying through the windscreen. The car immediately went up in flames as Harris watched on in horror. Now, this is actually one of the best scenes in the entire film, and a very surprising moment that, I didn't see coming. I mean, one minute they were just sitting there, the next the two detectives were engulfed in flames. And of course, you have to ask yourself, why exactly were these two corrupt cops murdered in the first place? Well, it would seem to me that Fraser felt that these two corrupt cops taking bribes were becoming a liability since they knew too much. So, with the help from his henchmen, Fraser was able to eliminate the two cops and leave no connection trailing back to him. After the car bomb attack, Harris definitely became more determined to find Fraser and put an end to his crimes. And this is where the Chris O'Neill character came into the story. Chris who was played by actor Craig Kelly, ended up helping Harris after his best friend was stabbed inside Fraser's nightclub. Chris knew that Fraser and his men were dangerous, and he wanted some revenge for what happened to his friend. And, it's fair to say that Chris was initially reluctant, but Harris managed to talk him round. Chris went on to identify the two suspects that were involved in the car bomb attack, and Harris went on to arrest them. But, unsurprisingly, the two suspects never talked. They knew that if they kept their mouths shut, the police would eventually have to release them, which they did. And so, with the suspects not talking, Harris made Chris wear a wire in an attempt to record some incriminating evidence against Fraser. The more evidence they had against Fraser, the more chance that he would receive a long sentence. With Fraser being such an elusive figure and such a hard man to track down, Harris put all of his hope into Chris obtaining enough evidence. The film would culminate in this bloody and violent scene at Fraser's nightclub where we saw him take Chris's girlfriend Rachel hostage. Harris had successfully tracked down the whereabouts of Fraser and had his whole club surrounded. Fraser spotted these squad cars outside waiting for him and attempted to escape, but would get shot in the process. And while this was an entertaining end to the film, I did think it was somewhat predictable. Rachel being taken hostage, the damsel in distress with the hero saving the day. I don't know, it all kind of felt a little bit paint by numbers. I just could see everything play out, it was just so obvious what was going to happen. I'm not sure if there were budgetary constraints or something along those lines, but I would have preferred a more exciting third act. Maybe you could have had the club be set on fire, or maybe another car bomb attack. I don't know, just something a little bit more exciting than what we actually got. As mentioned, this movie featured a solid cast of actors, including Harvey Keitel, who was the standout in this film. I enjoyed his performance as this middle-aged Los Angeles detective hanging out with the London police force. But I must admit that while Keitel's performance was good, it wasn't exactly one of his strongest performances. Now, I'm not saying that Keitel phoned it in, because he didn't, and he's not an actor that usually does stuff like that anyway, but I can't help but say that I've seen Keitel do a lot better in other films. I don't know, I guess in some ways it's fair to say that the character of John Harris wasn't necessarily a demanding one. Keitel's best scenes were when he was either interviewing or interrogating someone. That allowed the actor to show off more of his charm and charisma. Viggo Mortensen did a good job with his character Carl Fraser, the notorious American gangster. From the way he talked to the way he handled himself, the character had this silent intensity about him. And while from a distance you might not think that Fraser was a dangerous man, he definitely was not a guy that you'd want to mess with. He was this American gangster, puppeteering the disillusioned youth of London. I didn't think that the character featured enough within the film. Now, this may have been a case of director Danny Cannon using his villain sparingly, but I just felt that we needed to see more of Mortensen's character. He was the big bad guy that everyone was trying to track down, and While he was elusive, I thought more scenes involving Fraser were needed. British actress Anna Keaveney also had a small role in the film, playing Chris's mother. We saw her marry Chris's father before Fraser's men killed him. Now, the actress is someone that I'm aware of, having seen her in the British soap opera Brookside. She was very much known as a TV actress, so seeing her pop up in a film with Harvey Keitel, I was kind of shocked. It's a shame her role was so limited, because having seen Anna Keaveney in Brookside, I mean, she was a very good actress, and when it came to the dramatics, she could hold her own. Given that I know what the actress could do, it felt a bit like a wasted opportunity, having her in such a limited role. Before we get into dislikes, I have to take a moment and mention the brilliant song Play Dead by the singer Bjork. The song featured on her debut 1993 album, and in my opinion is one of her best songs. The video itself featured the singer Bjork perform the song inside the actual nightclub that was used within the movie. Director Danny Cannon actually took the time out to direct the video for Play Dead, and you can definitely tell, given its film-like quality. Back in the day, pre-social media, one of the things I loved to do was just sit in front of the TV and watch music videos, and this one from Bjork, Play Dead, definitely always stuck out to me. So, dislikes for The Young Americans from 1993. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the romantic subplot between Chris and Rachel. So the actress Thandie Newton, who played Rachel, was Chris's love interest in the film. As the situation around them worsened, the two grew closer together, supporting each other as the murders continued. We saw several scenes that explored their relationship, and while I did appreciate the character development, I just felt that the whole love story kind of ruined the film's pace. While there was no actual issue with the scenes from a technical standpoint, I just felt that they were very kind of boring and didn't really go anywhere. The more I saw of these two, the more I became more disinterested within the film, and I just wish the story had kind of focused more on Fraser getting caught. You see, there was nothing wrong with having a romantic subplot within the film. No problem there at all. But the issue came from the fact that the two actors involved, Craig Kelly and Thandie Newton, were just not engaging enough for me. I mean, the first few scenes were okay between the two, but it started to get more annoying as we saw more and more of them together. And yeah, at the end, I just became very tired of it. The whole thing just felt very hokey to me, and it really added no value to the overall narrative. Another dislike I wanted to mention would be the film's actual title, The Young Americans. For me, the title was a complete mismatch, and it failed to convey the film's actual themes and tone. I don't know about you, but for me, hearing The Young Americans, it makes me think of some sort of coming-of-age teen drama, not a violent crime thriller. And I also think that perhaps the title may have hurt the film's marketability. I don't know. It was a dumb name for a fairly decent crime drama, and if it was up to me, it should have been retitled. I didn't even understand the reason for it. I mean, there were no young Americans within the film, so I don't know, I was confused. And so, ratings for The Young Americans from 1993. I am going to be rating this movie a solid 4 out of 10. The Young Americans was a solid crime drama that showcased London's deadly criminal underworld. For me, it was a nice change of pace having an American LA detective hang out and work the streets of London. And I just want to say that with all of its faults that I've mentioned, make no mistake that this is a very well-made film. From the lighting to the set design to the cinematography, everything was top-notch. And yeah, credit to all those involved, because this may have been limited production, but it didn't look cheap. Directing is a monumental task for anyone to undertake, and it must have been pretty hard for a director like Danny Cannon at the time, who had limited experience, walking onto a movie set and working with some established stars like Viggo Mortensen and Harvey Keitel. Cannon was given an opportunity and he didn't waste it. So credit to him, and it's just a shame that he didn't really go on to have a illustrious film career. You know, I can't say that The Young Americans is essential viewing, but if you're a fan of Harvey Keitel, then you should definitely check it out. And well, that's all from me today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the review of The Young Americans from 1993. I'll be back next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, take care.